All right. You want to know who's running the show right now? Okay, it's important. It's Mars and Mercury, folks. Okay, doing a dance. Okay, I talked about this initially. Okay, so we're going to get into it a little bit more today. So now Mars and Mercury today just met in Scorpio, and they're about to do it a total of 3 times. Okay, yeah, 3 passes. So this is the mind, okay, Mercury, the intellect, communication, with Mars, which is the general. Just think of Mars as the general, okay? Wants to make decisions without emotions, laser focus, okay? So really, this is the mind and the will arguing, syncing, reprogramming each other, okay? So it's not a one-night stand. This is like a trilogy, all right? So think more like Star Wars, okay? Except we don't want a prequel to come out later, and we don't want 3 more coming out later, all right? So first act, what we have is really today, okay? This conjunction in Scorpio. So it's really a lot of mental firepower, okay? Mercury says stuff like let's talk strategy. Let's try things. Let's research. Let's analyze, okay? Mars goes, let's just move now. Let's just make the call and let's just move, all right? So together they can do anything from like quick thinking, fast moves, no hesitation. But, Scorpio kind of adds some depth, right? It's some intense emotional stuff. It's a water sign, okay? So it's not surface level conversation, right? It's emotional truth, okay? It can be power plays, psychological chess. What you got to watch out for is the fact that Mercury and Mars are natural enemies, okay, in Vedic astrology. It gets more deep than that, but, Mars is an enemy to Mercury, okay? And so, yes, there's a lot of quick-wittedness and thoughts that go into making decisions, but a lot of times it can also, add an intensity to conversations too, and being a little cutting with your words, okay? So tomorrow, with all that just being said, we've got this new moon happening in Libra. So this is kind of like a little reset button. It's about balance, finding calm, right? While the world's just kind of going nuts, all right? Think of the scales of Libra. Okay, we're wanting some peace. We're wanting some balance. We're wanting everything to work out and, come to some sort of consensus about stuff. So it is kind of like having a peace meeting in the middle of like a war room situation. All right. So you can talk harmony during this, but you're kind of sharpening your sword at the same time in the background. It's kind of that's a symbolism. So then a day afterwards, we're now going to have Neptune, which would have been retrograding, in Aries, and it's going to finally dip back into its home sign of Pisces, where it's rejoining Saturn, who's been retrograding there for a bit. So that's kind of the Saturn and the Neptune. That's the deep current under all this action, okay? So while Mars and Mercury are busy getting things done, saying what they need to say, Neptune's sliding back home and going kind of like, okay, cool guys, but what's the real here? What's the illusion? Do you see that this is an illusion? Do you see that this is not real? So you're going to go have this time where it's like you have dreams and your, boundaries are having this argument, this long due argument. And then the next day, October 23rd, we got the sun entering Scorpio. And that's where like basically you're spotlighting everything that's been brewing in the dark. Okay. So this whole vibe kind of turns more investigative, intense. There's no more pretending. I mean, if something's fake, it's going to crack. I mean, the sun represents kind of our soul, right? Our character. And so when that finally comes into this conversation in Scorpio that Mars and Mercury are having, it's kind of like you have to embody it. All right. Now, just a little bit later, Mercury's going to go retrograde again on November 9th. And we're going to have the rewind of the story, the rereading of this script that you're kind of making right now. Is everything you said or decided since late October, is that all going to, be right? All right. So it's edit time. So once we get to that time of November 9th, we're reviewing everything. It's Mercury retrograde, typical, reviewing communication, right? But then 3 days later, Mercury's going to cross back over Mars, backward, okay? So now this is kind of round 2, mind versus the will. Did you act from power or reaction? Did you speak truth or just speak first? Okay. By the way, this second meeting is going to happen actually in Sagittarius this time, not Scorpio. So kind of add some philosophy and higher meaning to the energy, a little fire in your belly, that Sagittarius fire element. So still in this cosmic audit, all right? Checking your motives before the universe really does it for you. Okay. Now, the long game, we're not going to see Mercury go direct, okay, until we get to the end of November. But by then, it's pretty far away from Mars, and it's going to take some time to catch back up. I mean, Mercury's quick, but it's not going to make that third pass over Mars until like January 18th, 2026. That's the final chapter. But by then, Mercury's direct again, Mars is steady, and the lesson's going to land. Why? Well, Mars is going to be in Capricorn, and that is where it's exalted. It's also where it loves to be, okay? Because Capricorn is about getting results. Let's just get it done. And that's what Mars likes to do. So it's going to be about performance and results when we get to this final act. And that's when thought and action are finally going to hopefully line up. So the frustration is going to hopefully turn into precision. And you're going to know what you're doing and why. Okay? So this trilogy is going to close with clarity, the mind and the will finally moving as one. Okay? So just kind of to summarize here, Mars and Mercury are personal planets. They're immediate. You're feeling this now in your body, in your nervous system, okay, in daily life. They're going to push you to act and speak differently. And then the Neptune going back into Pisces, hanging out with Saturn, that's the long game that we've been talking about. It's the subconscious upgrade running in the background. So they're going to be rewriting the belief code in the background while Mars and Mercury are rewiring that and how you do it in daily behavior. Okay, so not a very calm season, but it's more like calibration. Okay, so there's 3 passes that Mercury does. Okay, and all planets do this. Okay, the outer planets, when they retrograde, they're going to go over a spot 3 times as well. So, but with Mercury, it's think, act, and then revise, and then act again. So you'll come out of it knowing what's real. Okay, what's noise, what's not worth your energy anymore. All right. This is alignment training, okay, straight from the cosmos. So it kind of seems like, funny enough, that this is all finalizing just a few weeks away from this big, Saturn-Neptune conjunction on the world point of 0 degrees Aries in February. Remember? Coincidence? I mean, I can't make this stuff up, guys. All right. Until next time.